This is an indie JRPG from Something Classic Games, and it really feels like an RPG of old. The pixel art is top-notch, the music is pretty good, and it's definitely different. It just scratches that classic itch without feeling like a carbon copy. So here's the gist. Players choose one of 4 protagonists. You got disillusioned Army Sergeant Nikolai, disgruntled restaurant cook Ben who can laugh at himself, dedicated magic school graduate Cordelia, and teenage shopkeeper Alexandra, who's desperately trying to keep her family's business afloat in a life crisis. Each of their chapters runs about 2 to 3 hours, and then in the middle of the game, it brings them and their traveling companions together on an 8-member fellowship for the final chapters. So let's break it down character by character. I started with Nikolai. Nikolai starts out as a proud soldier, expert in fire rescue, loyal to his army, until he finds out his lieutenant is firebombing civilians. The lieutenant and leaders in charge are obsessed with power, but to keep their country on top, they need this underground magical fuel to keep their warships, along with the country, running. After finding out other countries have a good supply of this magical energy, they maybe have questionable methods of getting what they want. And Nikolai slowly uncovers this truth, and he can't hide his knowledge of what is really going on once he watches his superiors kill innocent civilians. I mean, it is just such a creative story. Invading another country and starting a war over a non-renewable resource in the ground and killing innocent people over it? I mean, how do they come up with this stuff? But this is when Nikolai realizes maybe the people I'm fighting for aren't the good guys after all. And listen, this is where I noticed something. The game throws a lot of names and dialogue at you early on, and with no portraits next to the dialogue. Man, how am I supposed to know which soldier is talking? They look different enough that a portrait would tell them apart, but just dumping names on me expecting me to remember personalities? Not happening. So I ended up getting a little bit lost in the story, which took me out of it at times. Eventually, Nikolai stumbles across this silent wizard robot mage spirit thing that doesn't talk, just radiates power, which of course would make anybody nervous, and that's where his path really starts twisting. Next, I played Ben. Ben's a chef in his 30s or 40s just trying to get by. Doesn't want trouble, just wants to make a living, pay rent, and be left alone. And now his boss won't even pay him his pennies, and apparently wasn't paying back the mafia either. So the mob takes Ben hostage, hoping his boss cares enough about his employee to pay him back. And with his back against the wall, emotions high, Ben discovers he's got magic. He summons a lightning bolt onto the gang and escapes scot-free. From there, Agatha, a keeper of magic law, shows up to train him and to keep him in line. But Ben, he doesn't want any part of it. He doesn't want magic, he doesn't want the babysitting, and that's the funny part. This down-on-life, out-of-shape guy suddenly has incredible magic ability. And he's just like, nah, I'm good. And I gotta say, I'm one of those people that don't really laugh when consuming media, like playing a game or watching a movie, but some of Ben's lines really got my giggle box going. Especially that first scene when he's frustrated about not getting paid, so he goes into his boss's office to demand that payment and sees a mob boss with his henchmen questioning his supervisor. He doesn't freak out, he just nonchalantly coming to a conclusion, great, now I'm never gonna get paid. And speaking of Ben, his move list fits him perfectly. His big party heal is called Comfort Food. And that's with all the characters. Like a police officer has a move called Nightstick that just does blunt damage. Every character's abilities match their personality. So I'd find myself leveling up thinking, alright, what's the next move gonna be called? It was actually pretty fun just to see what the devs were gonna come up with. Then you've got Cordelia. She's basically royalty, climbing the academic ladder, working as a professor's assistant. She's on her way up until suddenly the opportunity is taken away. And upon finding out the bad news in her professor's office, she just walks out, gets on a train, and leaves town. Now look, I love being dramatic, but I've never walked out of a bad Zoom call at work, grabbed my bags, and hopped on a train out of town. I mean, that's next level dramatic. She rides the train for a long time and finally ends up in this old Western style town out in the boonies, which is basically just Texas. Of course, during her train journey there, train robbers try taking over. Cordelia takes care of the thieves with her magic, and upon arrival in this western town, she climbs up a different town's corporate ladder and becomes sheriff, which is no small thing, because trust me, in the South, being sheriff is basically being president. The sheriff and the local high school football coach basically run the whole town. So you follow Cordelia as she becomes sheriff of this not-so-quiet little town where crime hits closer than she expected. And finally, we got Alexandra, the teenager running her family store while her mom's sick. While doing so, she stumbles upon these cards that let her drift into other dimensions. Can she use these to help herself, or will the Wizard Council find out about them before it's too late? But don't worry, she meets a sentient talking hippo who sticks by her side thick and thin. And just trust me on this, you actually start to have a heart for this hippo. I mean, she's loyal, funny, then she tells you that she's a long way from home. And man, that pulls on your heartstrings. I mean, you want to get her back. She's not just comic relief, she's like family by the end. What really worked for me is how all these character stories pull together after their introductions. If you just dumped 4 random heroes on me and their companions all at once, it would be like trying to cram a plot of a 3-hour war epic into my brain way too fast. And especially in our TikTok attention span fried generation, I don't think that's going to work for everybody. But here, you meet them one at a time, get invested in each of them, and then watch them intertwine into the bigger narrative. So by the time the main story gets going, you already care so much about each character individually. And that makes every small victory, tragedy, and triumph feel way more dramatic. The combat itself, classic turn-based, but I think the saying here is true, sometimes less is more. Of course, you got your health meters you have to watch along with traditional attacks, but the combat is centered around a stamina system. You start each round with 100%, and each special attack costs you some of it. Of course, smaller ones costing less, or mega or multi-attacks depleting your stamina. Add in this turn order on the right-hand side, resistances, buffs, debuffs like bleeding or blindness or poisons, and speed boosts that push you up the order. It's simple, but there's a lot of room for strategy here. And I'll be real, I'm new to the whole turn-based combat, but this system, I could actually understand it. It doesn't overwhelm you with a ton of pop-up menus and lists. I never felt like the game was burying me under options I didn't understand, but it's got enough depth to keep you going. The real management strategy comes in with all the equipment, weapons, and armor you find during the game or buy at local shops. Some help with magic, defense, or give you certain abilities like being able to attack twice. One of my favorites I have going is how my spirit robot has the ability to do non-elemental damage equivalent to his current HP. So I equipped him with maximum HP and stamina regeneration so he can spam that move, and I stacked that ability with healing abilities to make sure he's always healed up. That way he can deal a massive blow every time it's his turn in combat. And I just think strategizing like that with my own combos is just plain fun. And let me just say, thank God above, no random encounters. Every enemy is visible, you can walk up, prepare yourself, or just explore the game without it ambushing you. Usually they're bottlenecked and choke points, sure, but at least I could breathe between fights. Now I did notice the difficulty spiked at the end, but I kinda liked it. I got through the game without having to level grind, and once the story felt like it was the most dire, the difficulty matched. And now it forced me to dig into my bag for all those potions, remedies, and revives I've been stockpiling since I didn't really need them when the game was easier up to this point. Now, about that music. Overall, the soundtrack is exceptional, which is vitally important when you're talking about a 25-hour RPG you're playing through. The main thing I noticed is variety. This soundtrack comes with over 30 tracks, and yes, some of them didn't stand out and kind of just faded into the background, but most of them I really enjoyed. And if you don't like one, just wait a bit, it'll change. But I gotta be honest, sometimes they just cut the music entirely. And look, I get why people do that, it builds tension, but these devs did it so much, I literally kept checking my headphones to make sure they weren't broken. Nope, still on, just another scene with silence. Visually though, the characters are expressive. Even with pixel art, you can tell when they're shocked and excited, and that helps with immersion a lot. The art style isn't exactly Super Nintendo 16-bit, it's smoother and more modern. So if you're a purist, you'll notice and maybe not like it, and I completely understand that. But if you like a retro foundation with a modern polish, this should be right up your alley. But the real winner here is the writing. It's why we love our favorite movies, books, and all media for that matter. It's the storytelling, but it feels like that's what an RPG will live and die by. I mean, that's why we play RPGs. We want to be caught up in the story, to place ourselves as a character and immerse ourselves. And Quartet gets that and does an excellent job in the storytelling and the writing. It's not corny, it's not try-hard, it's not edgy for the sake of it. When it wants to be funny, it's funny. When it wants to hit you in the heart, it does. When it wants to toss a moral question your way, it just drops it out there, not forcing it on you or smothering you with it, just giving you the option to think deeper. Now sure, it does get bloated at times. I'd zone out for a few exchanges until they got back on track. And Nikolai's first arc, I really had no idea what was happening there, but once they hit the hometown and war plot lines, I was hooked. And for probably 80 to 85% of the game, I remained that way. So yeah, Quartet just isn't another indie JRPG love letter. It nails the important stuff: the writing, the characters, the story, the combat being fun and it's approachable, the art is gorgeous, the soundtrack's solid, and the pacing makes it feel perfect even for somebody who usually avoids 30-hour RPGs. So, would a mediocre gamer like Quartet? The answer is yes.